What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazique, and it is my pleasure to have Josh Silveira here. He is a professional fighters lead fighter about to embark on another humongous fight here in the PFL playoffs in 2024. How you doing today, Josh?
I'm doing good, man. Beautiful day here in Florida, as you can see, nice and sunny.
Yes.
Um, just taking it day by day, uh, doing my responsibilities to get ready for August 16th.
Yes, sir. Big day, big day. So I definitely want to talk specifically about August 16th, but I want to ask like a more general question. Can you talk a little bit about this is something that a lot of like fans may not necessarily understand, but a little bit about like kind of some of the ups and downs of mixed martial arts, right? You started off your career as 9-0. You had a couple setbacks, you've won, you've had some close decision losses. Talk about how you handle that as a professional.
Yeah, man. Being an athlete or being in a life of competition, so to say. You're gonna deal with these moments, and I think it's part of the journey. It's part of the ingredients you need to become who you are. There are some greats out there that have never had to experience some things like that, but there's only a few. And I would say there's greater champions that have lost in their life versus the ones that never lost. And I think that's part of it, especially with a sport like fighting. There's, I don't know, 8 billion people on this planet. You're not going to get to beat everybody up. Sometimes you're going to have to deal with moments like that, but I think that's what makes us I think that's what separates you from somebody that maybe can't handle something like that. And for fighting, if you can't handle something like that and move on or pick yourself back up when you're down. That question was, what did I learn from the last fight, basically, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I learned a lot, man. I would say my first loss was against my teammate, and that was a weird moment. My first year with the PFL, kind of awkward because I helped that guy out for a lot of fights, and that was something that I learned then. But that was my first loss. But Impa was really, in my opinion, my first real loss mentally and physically and emotionally. And I was like, man, I got to come back from this. I just can't end at this moment. And so I just learned about being in the moment, learned about taking it day by day, and learning that fighting is just a little portion of my life. And right now we're enjoying it, we're having a good time, but it's not my whole life. I don't got to
Mhm.
take it super serious. I don't have to act like I was bred for this, and this is my destiny. And because with my fighting background and my parents, my dad, and I've been around this my whole life, and that's what I used to think a lot. This is who I am, and this and that, and no, life's not all about that. And sometimes when you approach things with a little bit of cautious carelessness, I guess you could say, those are the people that really get in a flow state of mind. And just not don't take it too serious. You
Yeah.
know, it's a fight. At some point, you're gonna have to deal with living in the moment. You could game plan as much as you want. Sometimes it just doesn't go like that. The person who's calm and collected in there and is ready to take advantage of the moment, right? Like initiate the moment. That's what I didn't do my last fight with Impa. I didn't initiate. He was initiating everything. He was
Mhm.
wanting to hit me, where it looked like I was just kind of just the only thing I really got to is I could take a hell of a punch. I never
Yeah.
been hit like that. So yeah, man, I guess that was just a learning lesson. I could take a punch. And August 16th, I'm gonna take some punches from him for sure. But you're gonna get to see me hit him back. That's a
Yeah.
fact.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
fact.
Mhm. Yeah. I was there that night for that fight, and I can definitely hear what you're saying in terms of Impa was initiating the contact and initiating most of the actions. What do you think led to that? What do you think made it where he was getting off first?
I think I think one, he's been in a moment where you know, he's been in a moment where he's been, I guess, embarrassed. A moment where he's felt this before. He's felt the loss. You know, that viral KO that he took. I think that moment really was a crappy moment, but that shit made him a strong guy. mentally. And I think when he got into this moment in the finals, you know, the way that he was coming after me was a man that's not willing to go through that again. You're gonna have to kill. You're gonna have to take him out,
Yeah.
and I respect that about him. You know, he showed me what he went through, and now here we are again, and I'm trying to give it back to him what he gave to me. You know, and so he could hand that off to somebody else or whatever. But I went through my moment, man, and he helped me be a better fighter. That's for sure. And
Yeah.
I think it showed in that fight with Rob. Even though it was super razor close fight, I thought I won that fight personally, and I went toe to toe with the guy who finishes people on the regular. You know,
Mhm. Yeah.
um, I bring that same attitude to the fight with Impa. We're gonna have a fight. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, the fight with Rob Wilkinson was extremely close. I've seen some people say that they had it for you. Some people say he had it for Rob. He did got the split decision victory. And so you're going into this fight, and especially because of the PFL's format, this is really a must-win fight for you. But I hear you talking about that flow state, and it's interesting that I hear you say that because just recently Michael Venom Page was talking about this, and he was like, I have to stay loose. I have to stay light-minded in terms of when I'm fighting. I can't allow myself to get mad. Is that kind of some of the same thing that you're talking about? And what do you do to kind of keep yourself in that state?
Yeah, you know, you have to understand what we're doing is we're fighting. It's a sport. It's MMA, but it's fighting. You have to accept the possibilities of getting knocked out, of getting choked out, of getting hit, of getting kicked. But you have the ability to have a factor in that, you know, and you have to understand that it, it doesn't matter how you get hit or how you get kicked or what happens in the fight. You have to be ready. You have to have almost an empty box in your mind, you know, of nothingness, of just dealing with whatever is presented to you. And then you got to learn how to have, you know, smell the blood in the water too. You got to learn when you have to do more to win, you know, and that happens a lot in this sport. You see two guys go toe to toe, and sometimes one has to do more. You know, they have to show that they want it more. And going back to that Rob fight, that's what I felt like I did. I felt like I wanted to win that fight more. You know, of course, technicality ties into it, but yeah, man, it's understanding that you're not just gonna go beat the guy unless you go beat the guy. You know, there's a lot of fighters that get lucky in there. They have a moment where they get a guillotine or they get a rear naked choke or something of that nature. But sometimes you just gotta go beat a guy up for 15 or 25 minutes, and
Yeah.
that's just the name of the game.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you're gonna get tired, you're gonna get exhausted, you're gonna deal with that. You just have to respond well.
Yeah. So the fight with Impa, the one that coming up, it's at Hollywood. It's in Hollywood, Florida, and you were just mentioning being in beautiful Florida.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know you're at ATT. He's a Kill Cliff product. You guys had this kind of storyline around the last fight, but this one's a little bit even more because it's actually the fight's taking place in Florida. Talk a little bit about that, how that, if that affects you at all, how it affects your teammates, what you think, you know, in terms of the how it's built in as a storyline by media and fans. What do you think about that?
Yeah, man, you know, it's cool. Obviously, there's pressure, and it's like, you know, there's all these things. My family and friends are they going to see me get beat up again? Am I going to lose? Oh my God. You know, nightmares in my head or whatever you want to call it. Of course, that's going to be there, man. But if you ask me, do you want to do it or you don't? Man, 100 fucking percent I want to do this.
Yeah.
I love this shit. You know, I love the setting. I love being in Florida. I love the fact that I get to go fight this guy that beat me. You know, and I have nothing against Kiff, but so what? Add on to it. I like it. The crowd's gonna be into it. This is a good epic moment, man. Personally for me, and I think for Florida MMA, I guess you could say, right? This is a hotbed for MMA. I think this is a cool moment. I think this is a moment people could talk about for a long time, especially if it's an awesome fight.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's gonna be awesome. I want to be there for it because I have a feeling that the atmosphere is going to be kind of like a if you know kind of atmosphere, and
Hell yeah.
I think that's real good for the sport. I got to ask you, because he has have affiliation with PFL, and I try to ask everybody that is in with PFL in any way about this question. Did you get a chance to see Jake Paul and the Mike Perry fight?
Yep, I saw it.
So what were your thoughts on the fight?
Well, one, Jake Paul was much larger than Mike Perry. I was actually a little shocked. I didn't know Mike Perry was that small.
Yeah.
Not that he's a small guy, but or Jake's just a big boy. I never seen Jake personally, so I couldn't judge you. I've only seen him on, on the screen,
Yeah.
and I mean, homie could box.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
could box. It's not like a lot of people say he can't box or whatever. Like can't box is like I know a lot of people that can't box,
Yeah.
but he's getting fights. Obviously they're kind of weird fights, but he's entertaining. I mean, I watched it.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of other people watched it, and I'm sure a lot of people wanted Mike Perry to knock his knock his face off, but um, I think it's interesting, man. He's making a career out of it. Good for him. I think the one time he boxed a young boxer, he did lose by split decision. I don't know
Yeah.
the
Tommy
Fury judge.
Fury. Yeah. Tommy
Yeah,
Fury.
so I think that explains a lot, and the other guy's not a horrible boxer, but I've seen a lot of young studs out there that could create some issues. But if Jake doesn't need to fight them, you don't need to fight them. Why fight a killer if you don't need to fight a killer? Make it the same money fighting a guy like, somebody from bare knuckle boxing or a retired MMA fighter, or a guy like Ben Askren.
Yeah.
Ben Askren's
Or a
crazy,
60
man.
or a 60-year-old former boxer.
Or a 6 year, you know what I mean? But if they're gonna make money and they're both making money and it's something that they could handle, go do it, man. Live in the moment, make that money so you could go have time to enjoy your life.
Yeah, yeah. My last question for you is, obviously I know it's somebody you see, or I believe you see fairly regularly, Dustin Poirier,
Yeah,
at a place in his career, and I'll take off my journalist hat for a second, and like this dude is one of my absolute favorite people to watch
yeah.
compete in the world, right? What are your thoughts on like where he is right now in his career? What would you like to see him do? How well do you know him and deal with him at when you work out?
Man, so I've I've seen Dustin. I've seen Dustin for a long time in my life. Um, and I would say recently I've gotten closer with him in a sense of like we have these little conversations I ask him the same questions, man, that you want to know, like how do you feel, man, like this is he has a great career, and for a guy like that at the gym to be around there, man, has a lot of wisdom. But he's always been around, since I was a kid. He's been doing this for a long time,
Yeah,
and honestly I just wanted to be a happy guy. I know the sport has consumed a lot of his life, and I don't know his family super well, but I know he loves his family, and I just want to see the guy be happy, man. He doesn't have to do these fights with these young lions anymore, but he's still there, toe
yeah,
to toe, and it's inspirational, man. I think you could ask anybody at the gym, at American Top Team, and I'm almost sure 90% of the people in there will say Dustin is probably the most inspired, uh, 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 the person that inspires all the fighters in there for sure. You
hmm
know, he is a symbol of, in my opinion, he's a symbol of an OG mixed with a modern MMA nowadays. A guy who came from WEC and we still see going toe to toe with the best in the world. And I don't know, man. He's kind of like the Rocky Balboa of the real world. The Cinderella man. I don't know how to explain it. He just keeps on coming back when you think he's done.
yeah,
And it's amazing, inspirational for sure.
for sure, man. Well, Josh, it is always a pleasure to get a chance to talk to you, man.
For
I
sure.
wish you nothing but the best coming up on August 16th. And it's just like I said, it's just a pleasure. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, man, and let's have some fun August 16th. Let's get after it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
Bye bye.